Welcome to this Explainer. Today, we are cracking open the black box of digital memory. We're going to take a really fascinating anatomical journey right into the physical machines that actually store your data.
Here is our blueprint for today. We'll be covering the microscopic magnetic canvas, tape drives and serial access time versus transfer rate, HDDs and their radial evolution, the geography of data, and finally, the storage ecosystem. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The microscopic magnetic canvas.
Okay, think about the massive volumes of data you use every single day. Well, it is all stored on a tiny microscopic canvas. If you were to look at a 10,000 times magnification of a storage drive's coating, you'd just see iron oxide. Yeah, it's essentially just rust. At its absolute core, electronic data is literally just microscopic areas on this rust canvas that are either magnetized, that's your binary 1, or demagnetized, which is your binary 0. Because these individual magnetized areas are just so incredibly small, we can pack immense, and I mean immense, volumes of data into them. And the best part? This magnetic state is permanent unless you intentionally overwrite it, which gives us incredible long-term data stability.
Section 2. Tape drives and serial access. So we hit a massive fork in the road here when it comes to storage geometry. The physical shape of the storage media actually dictates how your computer physically has to move to find its data. We've got two main routes. First, there's the linear path of magnetic tape, and second, the radial path of hard disk drives. These structural shapes completely define how these devices are actually used out in the real world.
If we follow that linear path, we get our very first machine, the magnetic tape drive. It's built on a thin plastic strip acting as a base, which is coated in that iron oxide layer we just talked about, spooling right past a mechanical read and write head. Now, this linear foundation, it provides enormous scale and capacity. It is incredibly cost-efficient per byte, giving us these massive storage limits that are tailor-made for heavy enterprise environments. Plus, it's highly robust over super long periods of time.
But here is the catch. Because of this physical layout, tape relies entirely on serial access. If you want to read, say, block D, that mechanical head has to physically spool past blocks A, B, and C in the exact order they were written. This means it is painfully slow to find specific pieces of data. I mean, it's completely useless for real-time or online applications. However, it is absolutely perfect for massive sequential operations where the processing order doesn't really matter. Think about batch processing for clearing bank checks, running massive batches of utility bills, or doing deep system backups.
Section 3. Access time versus transfer rate. Now, you really have to think of the difference between access time and transfer rate kind of like a maze versus a pipe. It's a vital diagnostic distinction. On one hand, you have the mechanical maze of access time. That's the literal, physical time required to locate a specific piece of data on the media. On the other hand, we have the sheer pipeline speed of the data transfer rate. That's how fast the data is actually sent to your computer's CPU once it's finally been located. So with magnetic tape, it suffers from remarkably slow access times because of that serial spooling nature. But once it actually finds the data, boom, it boasts incredibly fast data transfer rates.
Let's put a formal name to this mechanical waiting game: latency. Latency is the specific mechanical time it takes for a target block of data on a track to physically rotate around to meet the stationary read/write head. So, to put that into perspective, physical distance is literally bottlenecking our digital speed.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract engineering concept. This microscopic mechanical delay, it's the absolute reality behind why your computer occasionally freezes, locks up, and hits you with that incredibly frustrating "please wait" or "not responding" message. You are quite literally just waiting for a physical machine to spin around to the exact right spot. Crazy, right?
Section 4. HDDs and the radial evolution.
Okay, let's switch gears and look at rigid platters. Instead of a flexible spool of tape, a hard disk drive uses these rigid platters, usually manufactured from glass, ceramic, or aluminum, and they're coated in that exact same iron oxide. But rather than spooling linearly, a rapidly pivoting read-write head darts instantly across the disk's radius. By abandoning the linear constraints of tape, HDDs enable what we call direct access. You can jump to data anywhere on the platter.
But even with this direct access, physical latency still totally exists. We still have to wait for a specific block of data to physically rotate, mechanically, along its circular path until it perfectly lines up under the stationary read-write head. Obviously, it happens incredibly fast,
but physics still demands a delay.
Section 5. The geography of data.
So with things spinning that incredibly fast, how does the computer not just get hopelessly lost? Well, the platter is strictly organized. It is divided up into concentric, circular rings called tracks, and then those tracks are sliced into radial pieces called sectors. This creates a really precise, highly structured navigational grid directly on the disk surface.
But you know, a grid is completely useless without a map. And that is exactly where the FAT, or File Allocation Table, steps in. It acts as the master map, kind of like a GPS system for your computer, storing the exact radial and rotational coordinates of every single file. This index is absolutely crucial because it ensures lightning-fast direct access by giving the read/write head the exact coordinates immediately. It never has to manually search or guess where to dart next.
Section 6. The storage ecosystem.
So how do these geometric designs actually deploy out in the real world? Well, on one side of things, we have fixed internal HDDs. These sit tightly inside your computers or your file servers, powering operating systems and real-time systems like airline booking with extremely fast direct access. Though, because of all those moving parts, they are susceptible to really devastating head crashes if they're powered down incorrectly. On the flip side, we have portable external HDDs, the kind you connect via USB. These retain that massive capacity, but offer the brilliant flexibility of complete physical portability. You can easily transfer data between isolated computers. The trade-off? They're highly vulnerable to physical drops and improper ejection.
Bringing it all together, we can really clearly contrast the strict serial access of magnetic tape right against the instant direct access of HDDs. It's fascinating to see how their prime use cases align perfectly with their speeds, from the deep archiving of tape all the way to the active working memory of fixed drives. And of course, we can easily map out their unique vulnerabilities, from magnetic fields wiping tapes to physical head crashes on disks. Ultimately, no single storage device is absolute. A truly resilient digital architecture actually leverages the specific geometric strengths of every single medium. We use the massive, scalable, linear stability of magnetic tape right at the foundation to protect the past. We use portable drives in the middle as a flexible transit layer. And up at the peak, we rely on the rapid, radial speed of fixed disks to power the present.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We so often imagine our data living in some invisible, silent, abstract digital space, right? The cloud. But knowing the physical, literally 19th century reality of digital memory, what rapidly spinning platters or spooling magnetic tapes are actively whirring, darting, and working behind the scenes to preserve your data right now? I mean, really think about that invisible physical machinery operating right beside you at this very moment. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning the technology you use every single day.